spiritual director, Father Charlie Banks, in my last meeting with him, preparing for Advent, recommended to me that I focus during this season on the virtue of hope as we contemplate this overview of the liturgical year of salvation, of history, of God's love for us, that I find in it and pray through it the hope that is offered. And I couldn't help but think, as I considered John the Baptist and his ministry, that people without hope don't go out into the desert looking for a prophet. Those without hope, their lives were difficult, more difficult than ours, but without hope, they don't get dunked in the waters of the Jordan. And for us, as we consider the hopefulness of these days, I was looking for something that might help me dig a little deeper, and I found in the teachings of St. Thomas Aquinas that there are two ways for us to attain something. We can attain something by possessing it, and we can attain something by longing for it, by hoping for it. And those are very different ways of attaining something, right? When we possess something, so often it's limited, and by possessing it, we further limit it. Almost we destroy it in the process of owning it, of making it ours, of making it small enough to hold in our hands. Whereas the things that we hope for, the things that we long for, can be infinite, can be as large as the promises that God offers us. I remember when I was a child, my mother would tell us about her college days. She was a very poor college student. And in order to stay awake, as she studied for her final exams, she would eat Red Hots, those little red candies, tiny little red candies. But because of her budget, she would eat one Red Hot candy and suck on it until it was gone, and then she would get the next Red Hot candy and suck on it till it was gone. Now, that's not how we usually eat candy, because we want to possess it, right? And so we shove it all in our mouth, and we have maybe a little bit of chocolate drooling down the side of our lip, but other than that, it's gone, and we're left just with the residue of having eaten a bunch of candy, right? A large meal that we long for, that we prepare for, that we consider who will be joined. Like, there's so much hope and preparation that goes into, say, a good meal with our friends. But a meal that's been eaten just kind of sits heavy on our stomach, right? And there's a difference between longing and possessing, one that we can intuitively know. And we're invited in this Advent season to look forward with hope, to await, to long, like we're sharpening our appetite. When we can just eat anything that's in front of us, we're never hungry, we never have an appetite, we never desire. But God's inviting us into this season, into this desert of desire, of longing. If we think about it, Christmas isn't the season in which God is more generous than the rest of the time. God doesn't hold back on us and then give us later. Advent is the season in which we prepare our hearts to receive his gift so that we can receive it more richly. Yes, there's a season of richness ahead of us, but not because God will give us more grace, but because we will have done the work of longing and desiring. And that was the work of the Baptist, to try to prepare people's hearts to desire what was to come, to desire the one who would baptize not with water, but with fire and the Holy Spirit, to desire the one who would show us more completely the gift of God's love. From the beginning, the church struggled a little bit with John the Baptist. Not that we were afraid of him, but that we forgot to leave him and follow Jesus. That was true of his disciples, that John was always sending them off to go and follow Jesus. That the early church, there was a sect of early Christianity that followed John instead of Jesus. But John was only introducing us to the hope so that we could be prepared to receive what God was offering us. This week, during the week, we had a bunch of readings that are preparing us for this hopefulness. And I couldn't help but think on Friday as the two blind men followed Jesus, calling out after him, as they talked among the people around them and tried to ascertain if this was really Jesus, and as they tried to figure out what the messianic prophecies were, and how what Isaiah said of salvation included them getting their sight back, and how they went to Jesus and they found the courage, because of their hope, to enter the house, and how that turned into faith as Jesus asked them if they believed. And they said, "Yes, Lord, of course we do." But if he had asked them 3 hours before, maybe the answer would have been different, because it was their longing and their desire that prepared their hearts to receive the gift of faith that Jesus offered them, and the gift of sight. Sight being, in that messianic tradition, one of the signs of God's presence and love. And for us, what would be the signs that we hope for, that we long for? To take the risk. Hope is risky. It's easier just to give up, right? It's easier not to set ourselves up for disappointment, to say this is all there is. But those who hope go out and listen to the prophet in the desert. Those who hope are washed in the Jordan. Those who hope look to the coming Messiah and find in God's gift, in God's love poured out, a new beginning, the beginning that will be ours if we'll embrace it. And so, with the Baptist who announced a time of expectation, and one that will grow, right? For now, it's people being baptized in the desert, but next week we'll already begin to consider a mother longing for her child to be born, contemplating what it means when he kicks in her womb and she feels him kicking, like that encounter that was already present with the Lord, that might not mean much to one who doesn't pay attention, to one who isn't hoping, who isn't longing, but she hoped and longed. And for us to have that expectation in this season, to be invited into a season of